Hello to our community group teachers and leaders. Hopefully you've already watched the video that I sent out to the entire church regarding May 27th and June 3rd. And I wanted to send a follow-up message to you to talk specifically about the first Sunday in June, June 3rd, 2018. And I'm going to ask you on that Sunday, on June 3rd, do something different in your community groups. So whether you're doing the Lifeway material or the pastor's cut or an independent study, I'm going to ask that you put that on hold for 1 week and to deal with 5 questions in your community group. I was working through the book of First Peter with the Wednesday night study group, and we were talking about accountability and spiritual growth, and so I developed for that group 5 questions. That if we could ask these 5 questions of each other and we gave honest answers, that it would prod our spiritual growth. And somebody in that Wednesday night study raised their hand and say, why don't we ask these questions on Sunday morning? Why aren't we regularly asking ourselves these questions? And my response is, because I'm afraid our church would get really small really fast. These are tough questions. They're difficult questions to deal with. But I'm going to ask you to deal with them. And so whatever else you're doing on June 3rd, would you put that aside? And the message that morning will tie into this. But I'm going to ask in your community group that you ask 5 questions. Have an honest discussion with one another. So here's the first question. Am I more in love with God today than I've ever been in my entire life? That's a pretty solid question. Second question. Am I growing more and more compassionate toward other people? If you were to take Jesus' attitude toward others, you could really sum it up in that word, compassion. The third question is, am I loving myself as Jesus commanded? Now, think about those first 3 questions, and there's a lot of discussion that could be had around those. Isn't that the greatest commandment that Jesus gave us? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So deal with those 3 questions. Now the next 2 questions, the final 2 questions, are also related to one another. Am I saying yes to God? Is there some area of risk or obedience where I need to say yes? And am I saying no to sin? We often let sin slide in our lives. We make excuses, we make compromises. Now, if you take those last 2 questions, we often get them reversed. We are to say yes to God and no to sin, but if we're not careful, we end up saying no to God and yes to sin. These are just very simple accountability questions that carry with them the potential of spurring on spiritual growth. So here's what I'm doing this summer. I'm calling this summer Attack My Apathy. I've become apathetic in some parts of my life. I don't want to be that way anymore. Somebody once defined apathy as the acceptance of the unacceptable. I don't want to accept that which is unacceptable in my life. And so I'm going to attack my apathy. I'm going to invite my church to join me on that journey. Now, whether or not you do that or not, that's up to you. But I'm doing it. And I'm going to invite you to attack your apathy along with me. And these 5 questions, I think, really have a way of highlighting what are some areas of our life that we have become apathetic. I'm going to ask you as teachers and leaders, leverage your best Bible study teaching ability. Bring scripture, bring your own story. Caution people about oversharing, but let's be very direct and say, if we want to grow, we must be accountable to one another, and we must not accept apathy. So would you join me in this process? I've given some Facebook posts out there that you may want to refer to with the hashtag #AttackMyApathy. But on Sunday morning, June 3rd, I'm going to ask you to be present on that day. I'm going to ask you to be fully present on that day, and I'm going to invite you to join me on this journey of attacking my apathy. Thanks so much, and may the Lord continue to attack our apathy and to help us to grow to be more like Christ. May the Lord bless you today. Bye-bye.